So we're here with Murray Pound, a home builder, Carstairs Alberta. Tell us about your business. How many homes you build each year, what the typical home looks like, who your typical client is, that sort of thing.
Well, we are a small volume builder. We're a family-based second generation builder, and we build it in our hometown. We tend to build for what I call the de-urbanizer. Typically we have a lot of clients that have moved to the Alberta region for work from other parts of the country, move to a larger center and realize after they look around for a couple of years that maybe the big city isn't really what they're looking for. And when they start researching the smaller municipalities, luckily for me, they trip upon us once in a while, and we build custom homes for those people or homes on speculations.
Your philosophy towards home building is considerably different than the typical custom home builder in Canada or the typical home builder in Canada. So tell us about your way of thinking, and particularly your behind the paint.
Yeah, so the behind the paint has kind of evolved over the past 15 years, and we wanted to take our company in a different direction and focus on innovation. That's where it started. Differentiate ourselves from our competition, and so what spilled out of that immediately was sustainable construction, and then what's followed from that over the years is embedding safety features, and now our big push in our company is durability, building homes that are going to last beyond my children's generation and have low replacement and embedded operational costs. So that's the nexus of the idea of behind the paint. What you can't see in the home, the quality behind the paint is actually sometimes a lot more important than the color of the countertops, the color of the cabinets, because 15 years from now those cabinets are going to get torn out and replaced as fashions change. But you certainly don't want to tear down the walls or pull the insulation out of the attic. So the bones, if you will, everything behind the paint and the finishes is what I think is important.
How does your competition respond to this philosophy?
Well, actually, I don't know if my competition has responded to it. I think our need for innovation was a response to our competition. I wanted to differentiate ourselves. And what's interesting is in 2006, 2007, we were experiencing a boom in Alberta. There were over 20 builders in my local market, thereabouts, and then the recession hit. And we had to make a very quick decision. Do we go back to what everyone else is doing and do the bare minimum, or do we carry on with our philosophy and go into a last man standing strategy? So we decided the latter. We carried on with our build methods, building our names during the recession, building up our name and quality during the recession, embedding even more elements into our homes. During the recession, we started putting fire sprinklers in our homes, which was unheard of. Builders were looking for cost-effective ways of producing product, and we were going the other direction. And what's come out of that is we're one of the few builders left in our area, in our trading area. And now the market's coming back, and we're reaping the rewards. The referrals, the repeat business have come, and so doing the right thing has paid off. How my competition responded to that? It's not their model. They're still successful doing what they're doing because unfortunately the marketplace will still reward that type of product. But the discerning clientele, there's always an element of society that has discerning tastes or standards, and we're being rewarded by their patronage.
Why do you think there is that conservatism in the home building industry, this tendency to do the same old, same old?
Yeah, there does tend to be resistance to change unless change is imposed. And I think at the end of the day, like a lot of other companies and a lot of other industries, the sole purpose of producing a product is to create dividends for the investors and create a decent ROI at the end of every quarter. For us, because we're a family business, I think we're a little more emotionally connected with our product offering and with our clients. I mean, I'm going to meet up with my clients at the post office, or the restaurant, and chances are, I'm going to see each and every one of my clients several times throughout the year. And, that's one of the main reasons why we adopt change. The industry, I think, tends to be a little bit impersonal because a lot of homes are built by production builders, and so there isn't that connection. I contend that if the average CEO of a 300, 400, 500 home per year company had the opportunity to live right next door to his customers, might have a change of heart in how they do things in their operations. But I think there's just that impersonality. There's that distance between the client and the home builder. So there's no need to change. And until the other side of it is as well, until the market asks for change and creates demand for change, typically it doesn't come about. And for a home buyer, unless they're presented with a new option, they don't know that it's available to them. So if the marketplace is producing a certain product over and over and over again, the consumer says, listen, this is all that's available to us. We need a home. We'll find the prettiest one that we can afford and be happy with it. One that's closest to the school we like, I guess. That seems to be
Kind of hand in hand with this, the consumer, often it's often made fun of in the popular culture, but they'll put way more time into buying a vehicle that's transient in their lives. They were only going to have that vehicle for a few years, whereas they might have the house for decades. They may put way more time into buying some consumer product, like a bottle of shampoo, than they will into buying a home or considering the various options available to them. What's going on here? What do you think?
right. I think to relate it to your example of an automobile in North America is an extension of your personality. It's your human billboard telling the world, what you've done in your life to be successful and the type of image that you want to convey. So, people tend to be very careful about that purchase and what they want to convey about themselves. Whereas a home tends to be a very quick decision. It's an emotional decision. When the buyer has decided we're going to buy a new home, well, what are the research options available to them? They open up a newspaper to the home section. They see a few ads where builders are building in a community close to where they've already decided they want to live. They go to a show home parade. There's 5 builders or 6 builders in a show home parade. And each builder says, well, we have 3 or 4 home offerings for this area. And that's what they're left with. So they're left with a handful of floor plans and a handful of builders to choose from. And so their decisions come down to emotional response, what the home looks like. Is it in their budget? Is it close to the school and the amenities and work? And I think, and they also don't know how to research it because the tools aren't out there to help them research and compare homes. When you're buying a car, like you said, there's buyer guides, there's consumer guides where you can do compare and contrast. You can test drive cars, right? You can't test drive a house unless you're buying a pre-owned home. So it is a different buying situation, and it is a strange phenomenon. I equate buying homes to, the Zen pool of water. There can't be any ripples on that pool. And many builders try and smooth that pool out. They don't want any objections in the selling process. They want to be able to say yes, 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 yes to the client. Yes, it's close to school. Yes, you can afford it. Yes, it has granite countertops. Yes, it's 2,200 square feet. And they don't want any objections. And I think that's what the clients tend to base their buying decisions on.
It seems to me that many builders think they know what home builders want and what they are and aren't willing to pay for, and remain kind of steadfast in their beliefs. For many years, builders were really opposed to energy efficient homes. They claimed that home buyers didn't want them, and it took a couple of decades for that to come around and that to change, and that's finally come to pass. We now know that was wrong, and today they maintain that home buyers don't want sprinklers in their homes. that they don't want resiliency features against severe weather and earthquake in their homes. Do you think this is the case? Is this a major barrier to building safer homes in Canada?
I contend that I have smart customers, and I think most people are pretty smart. I made the joke today that my customers find a matching pair of socks each morning and find their way to work and make enough money every year to pay for a house. So for me to assume that they're not smart enough to make good choices for durability and safety and resiliency, I don't think it's up to me to decide what my client should or should not have. But I do believe it's my fiduciary duty to offer them all the possible options and share my experience, and because essentially at the end of the day they're hiring me as their consultant in their home building process, and if I'm not presenting them with all of the different options that can increase the value of their home downstream 10-15 years from now, I don't think I'm doing my job very well. So if I don't present them with safety features in their homes like fire sprinklers, if I don't present them with the opportunity to put 50-year shingles on their homes or energy efficient features in their homes, I think I'm really doing them a disservice. They can choose those things, they can make those decisions, but I have to make a good case for it. And I think it's very easy for a builder or a salesperson to say, do you want fire sprinklers? No. And the customer's going to say no. But was it explained well? Did you give the home buyer enough good information so they can make an educated choice, yes or no? And we have clients, after they've been given the information, choose for and against all sorts of different things, almost like an a la carte menu. But at least they had the choice. And so 10 years from now, 15 years from now, they can't say, well, really wish we'd had this, really wish our builder had have offered us this feature. It was offered, you made the choice.
Another thing we find through our research is that new home builders don't realize that newer homes in Canada are being damaged by severe weather, including basement flooding, but other things as well. Do you think this is the case? Are home builders uninformed and unaware of this trend? And is it also a barrier to building better homes?
It all comes down to price. And when you have several builders in a show home parade all competing for the same client, there's going to be some norming, and there's going to be some cost norming. And so it's very dangerous for one builder financially to put themselves too far out there. And so you're not going to see a lot of individualization of product offering in a community where you've got a show home parade of 4 or 5 different builders. Where there's less competition, and in my environment there is less competition. So we can put ourselves out there a little bit to be the better builder and take that risk. It's difficult for the builders to sell, an upgrade of a 50-year shingle if their competitors aren't doing the same thing. So what it leads me back to is, and we talked about this at length today, the code constantly needs to be revised and improved. And certainly durability and resiliency needs to have a larger spot in code. And as the code moves along, the builders follow. And so if we can get third-party agencies helping our government to improve code, showing them the way, showing them the reasons to improve the code, the market will follow, and the builders will, for lack of a better word, do what they're told, and the consumer will benefit. There's always the other side of it is affordability, and the builder associations will always talk about affordability, and that every change we make is going to affect affordability, and they're not wrong, but the consumer will buy what they can afford. And if they can't afford a 3,000 square foot home with hardwood floors and granite countertops anymore, because the code has adjusted up a little bit, that's, it's something to work towards. And what's interesting, I find, about our society today versus 50 years ago 50 years ago, my grandparents were just happy to have a home. Very simple home. And they worked towards the next home. And maybe their retirement home had hardwood floors and a fireplace. It seems in our lives today, we have to offer up everything immediately. People want everything right now. And so if we mix that with the argument of affordability, I don't think the argument of affordability holds a lot of water, because people are getting a lot more home especially in their first purchase, than we've ever seen before in history. So I think affordability has to be tempered with what is the right thing. The last point of that I'd like to make is, are we building homes that are going to be affordable 2 generations from now? And my fear is that as utility costs increase and servicing costs increase, 30 years from now, the homes that we're building now are going to be extremely expensive to operate and service, because the durable methods weren't used. They've been damaged potentially by natural events, and or they just weren't built that efficiently, and the envelope is inefficient, and it's very, very costly to retrofit downstream. And that's one of my big concerns, is that we're looking at very superficial things in new home construction. How pretty the house is, but we're really not looking at the bones, or what we call behind the paint. And my big concern is the serviceability of the homes that we're building right now. 20, 30 years from now, are we building homes that nobody can afford to live in?
Now, you talk about building code. The building code process in Canada is quite conservative. It's not easy to change the code. And furthermore, it's very easy to raise the ire and the hackles of the building industry. How best can an institution like ICLR work with builders to improve the code and get things done, get things actually changed?
My experience has been, you can talk to a builder, they'll say, yep, sounds like a good idea, but until it becomes code, there's no real benefit for them to push the needle. I think working with third parties, lobbying groups, government groups, and showing them the need for code revision makes more sense. And my building peers probably don't want to hear that, and I'll probably get chastised for that. But code code change is an eventuality. It's going to improve. And if it makes sense, if a change in our building code is going to make a home safer, less people are going to die, less people are going to get sick from mold, less the insurance agencies are going to be able to continue to offer insurance to the homeowner because they're not worried about payouts. And that's my fear is, there's certain types of insurance riders that you're just not going to be able to get pretty soon, because the insurance companies are going to say, well, what kind of premiums are we going to charge to cover that? And insurance is kind of the medicine for the ailment. Instead of, curing something once you're sick, how do we prevent someone from getting sick? Well, it's the same with homes, right? If we can stop the home from becoming damaged and in the first place, then there's none of these downstream payouts and repairs that have to be made for future generations.
Now, you've really connected with ICLR and to our Better Than Building Code initiatives. How and why do you think your philosophy and way of doing business kind of corresponds well with our Building Resilient Communities program?
Well, we connected on social media a little over a year ago, and at that time we were looking at durability in our homes as the next phase of what we wanted to introduce into our homes, and the fit was just perfect. It was things we were already talking about with our trades and customers and suppliers, and it seemed that some of the solutions that you had already developed were great for us. The research has been done. There was good science behind it. I could look through your documentation and say, all right, they've figured it out. the data's there, I can take that to my clients and say, hey, would you like to do this? And here's why. These studies have been done, and we can embed these philosophies into the home, and you'll have a better product for years to come. So it just added to our toolbox of things that we could offer for, and the tie into our philosophy of building better behind the paint was fantastic, and it just, like I said, it was one more wrench in our toolbox. It just built on our philosophy.
So just getting back to code to end it off, we don't want to give the impression that the building code in Canada is poor. It's not. It's one of the best codes in the world. And I think on the whole, Canadian home builders do a very good job. They build a good home. Again, some of the best in the world. But why do you think it's necessary to take home building kind of to the next level? We've touched on it a little bit, but why do you think it's necessary to go beyond code? And where do you see gaps in code and building practices, and where do we do a good job?
Well, we do a good job in regards to, in Canada, we have to adapt to the current code. Our friends south of the border are kind of a la carte when it comes to which code they want to use. They can pick and choose from prior codes, whatever suits them. A governor can mandate what code is going to be employed in a state. One municipality can have one code that's very different from homes on the other side of the street, and I think that's a very confusing environment for a home buyer, because you really don't know what you're getting. So I think our country's done a really good job developing a code consistently across all of our provinces and territories, but you can never stop improving. There's always new products, new technologies, new methods, new challenges and new problems, and we are seeing our climate change. At least, I don't know if it's cyclical. I can't answer that. I'm not an environmental scientist, but we are seeing more and more natural events that are impacting on homes. I know I used to tell my customers 10 years ago, you don't need an air conditioner in Alberta. We only get a week or two that's above 20. Well, you can barely live in a home without an air conditioner now in central Alberta. So things are changing. And so for code to just stay the same while other influences around us change, it doesn't make much sense. And the code's not perfect. It's good. There are some holes in the code. I'm a big believer that there's some safety holes in code. People are dying in their own homes. Firefighters are dying in people's homes. In North America, we lose over 3,500 people a year to house fires, and we're challenged with that. And durability. People are spending a lot of money and soon after they've been in their home. There have been a lot of studies where people are having to replace things because maybe the quality of the fixtures weren't so good, and they're falling apart. And for a lot of families, money's tight. And when you have to go out and buy a $40 doorknob because it fell off the door 3 years later, that's hard for somebody. That's taking money away from a vacation. That's taking money away from savings that they might want to put aside. And so if we start having mandates for resiliency in homes and safety, we're protecting people. And I think, our industry has a responsibility, and our government has a responsibility to protect the home buyer within their own home. They should be safe within their own home and secure, and they should be able to maintain the value of their home. It's the largest investment most people are ever going to make, and for that reason, it should be one of the elements in their life that the most thought was put into it. Not just this home is here for the next 5 to 10 years, but then again, a lot of buyers think that way. I'm going to be in this house for 5 years, and I'm going to sell it, make some money, and move into my next house, and then my final house after that. So maybe some of that philosophy is part of the problem as well. Maybe they're not concerned about building a home that's going to be here 100 years from now. And it's, it's funny, in my travels I've been to the British Isles, and I remember staying in a bed and breakfast that an American couple had bought in Scotland, and it was a brick structure. It was 400 years old. And every home on that street was 300 to 400 years old. And there were no problems with the structure. But we don't think that way here. We don't think for the long term. And yes, you're right. Code is a difficult thing to change, but if we stay where we are, I think we'll end up going backwards.
Any final remarks?
No, I think I've said enough.
Thanks.
But thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. We've learned a lot from your organization, and continue to have this useful relationship.
Thanks.
Thanks.
This is a message from the Institute for Catastrophic Loss Reduction.